Just the team that beat Michigan in the final.
Learning new things every day. Okay. Couple things for you all at the top. In addition, today the Department of Education released their Return to School roadmap of great interest to many parents, students, educators, and communities across the country. It outlines the community resources and support they need for a safe and healthy school year this fall. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, every school has the resources they need to ensure every student can learn in person, which is absolutely remains our objective. The roadmap addresses 3 landmarks and provides strategies and resources to get communities there, including health and safety, vaccinations for Americans 12 and older, and indoor masking, social, emotional, and mental health support for students, and accelerating academic achievement. The president has been clear that it is a top priority to have children in school in person full-time this fall, and he has secured the resources to help ensure we can do that safely. I'll also note that I've invited Secretary Cardona to come join us in the briefing room this week, so we're working to schedule that as well to give you all a briefing and an update. I also wanted to note that with Congress on recess for most of August, we are launching a huge push throughout the month to promote President Biden's Build Back Better agenda and highlight the success of the president's first 6 months in office, especially in delivering economic relief to the American people, creating a record number of jobs for an administration's first 5 months, and spurring on the fastest economic growth during the first half of the year in almost 4 decades. In addition to a regular cadence of White House messaging to support the Build Back Better agenda, key principals, including the Vice President, the First Lady, the Second Gentleman, will fan out to hold events in communities across the country, touting the President's Build Back Better plan to drive more economic growth and invest in America's middle-class families by cutting taxes for families with children, lowering health care costs, and meeting the moment on climate change. The President will also promote his agenda throughout the month. They'll be joined in that effort by the Cabinet, which will be stumping in every corner of the country on the importance of passing both the bipartisan infrastructure bill, can we call it the BIB now? I'm going to try, and the Build Back Better agenda to invest in our economy's strength, make life better for all families, and confront the existential challenge of climate change. As part of that, in the first 2 weeks of August alone, 14 Cabinet secretaries will travel to at least 26 cities in 13 states and the District of Columbia, with additional events being added. As just one example, Secretaries Walsh and Raimondo will be heading to New York City this Wednesday to highlight the broad support from both labor and business community for the president's economic vision. With that, Jonathan, kick us off.
Thank you. First, one follow-up to the evictions thing, and then moving on to foreign policy. Quickly on this, from the briefing we just received, it seems like the White House does not want to challenge this in court. The lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers who are unhappy with the response so far, are basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing, don't let Brett Kavanaugh stand in the way of this. Why not take executive action now to direct the CDC and deal with the court later on?
Well, I think what you should have taken from the statement that was put out right before the briefing, and also Jean joining us in the briefing today, is that the president has not given up the option of legal action. He has asked his team to look to kick the tires, just to keep the analogy going, and look at every authority, every option we have to keep more people in their homes. That is his objective. At the same time, he's also focused on the policy options that are at play, whether it's encouraging states to use funding, to get the funding out, to extend the moratorium by 30 days, 60 days in some states that can keep people in their homes, and to see what other policy options we have at our disposal. So we are using every tool we can. We are still kicking looking at legal authorities to see what is possible, but he's not going to take a step without legal authority to do so.
And how much more time is he going to kick the tires?
Well, it's clearly a priority to the president, given the extensive statement we put out this afternoon. He was laser focused on this all weekend, I can confirm for you, and has been from the beginning of the administration. I mean, as a reminder, I know Jean touched on this, but he wanted to see an extension in January in the American Rescue Plan. It obviously wasn't in there. The CDC extended the moratorium not once, but 3 times. We made clear when we did the last extension that would likely be the last extension because of the legal limitations. But he's going to keep pushing to see what the options are available to him and if there are any additional options available.
And then the foreign policy matter. Now the United States, per the Secretary of State's statement yesterday, agrees with Israel and the UK that Iran was behind the attack against the ship. Would the U.S. support an Israeli retaliatory strike on Iran? And how does this matter impact at all the U.S. position in the indirect nuclear talks if they restart?
Well, as a sovereign country, Israel is going to make their own decisions. But I will say that as it relates to our own engagement in nuclear talks, which we, of course, do have authorities over, or do have decisions to make there, our view is that every single challenge and threat we face from Iran would be made more pronounced and dangerous by an unconstrained nuclear program. So put another way, constraining Iran's nuclear program by returning to the JCPOA will put us in a better position to address these other problems. It doesn't mean that it will take care of the other issues that have been ongoing concerns we've had with Iran. They are a bad actor on the global stage. They have threatened our own military, as we all know. But we continue to believe that pursuing a diplomatic path forward, that pursuing an opportunity to make sure we have greater visibility and into what their nuclear capabilities are is in our national interest. Go ahead.
Hey, just quickly, on Friday, the president was asked whether Americans should expect more guidelines coming out because of COVID, because of the Delta variant, and he said, in all probability. So what's on the table?
I'm not, obviously, the president is keeping the option open of making sure that that the CDC and our public health officials can make recommendations on what's needed to keep the American people safe. I'm not in a position to preview that or to get ahead of any decisions they may make. What I can reiterate, though, is, and you heard Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins reiterate this weekend, we've been clear we're not going back to the shutdowns of March of 2020. We are not going back to the economy shutting down. We've made too much progress. Too many people are vaccinated. There's been too much progress on the economic front. But again, he has said from the beginning that we are going to be guided by the science, guided by our public health experts, and we're not going to take options off the table of what they may recommend.
And then just on Israel, a different topic, the NIH director says he doesn't see a need for booster shots, yet we're seeing this model out of Israel suggesting that boosters are beneficial. So is Israel ahead of the curve on this one?
Well, if you're referring to the Israel data from a couple of weeks ago, is that the data? Mm-hmm. Which was not fully extensive and fully published at the time. I'm not sure if there have been additional details since then. Our health experts continue to look at whether there would be a need for boosters. I would remind you, too, we have, from the beginning, planned for a range of contingencies as we have purchased supply of vaccines, just in case there are boosters needed. There hasn't been a decision made by our public health experts that it is needed even for a portion of the population. If that decision is needed, we will be prepared as a government.